Kyle Larson wins at Las Vegas, the first one to get a seat at the Championship 4 table in Phoenix coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about it next on NASCAR America Motormouths. Hi, everyone, and welcome in. Marty Snider, Jeff Burton, Steve Letarte joining you here. I think, Jeff, we all had Kyle Larson in the Championship 4, but did you see a dominant win like this coming at Las Vegas?
Well, you never know with this team. They've had some very dominant cars this year. They've been very fast, led a lot of laps. But the trouble has been executing. They haven't won the number of races that I think they've been in position to win. But they did it on this day. It wasn't without problems. It wasn't without troubles and a little bit of drama. But at the same time, they got it done. This is a very dangerous team. They have tons of speed. That's not the problem. If they clean things up the way they did on this day, then they are a threat every single week.
Jeff, I couldn't have said it better. When it came to the 5 car, the only question to me whether they were going to make it to the Championship 4 in Phoenix was the hiccups or issues going to be too big in the wrong round. We saw it earlier in rounds with wrecks. The question has never been speed, ever. The 5 car is so fast every single week that I think of any of the 8 drivers, this is the one that the entire playoff field didn't want to see win and advance at Las Vegas. They have the power of Hendrick Motorsports, who now has only 1 car remaining. Remember, the 2 other cars didn't make it. So William Byron is their sole focus as far as when it comes to Miami and Martinsville. And they already know that this 5 car and whatever chassis they choose to bring, that is their opportunity for another championship.
So see they get obviously they are now in the Championship 4 weeks earlier than anyone else will be, unless, there'll be a new winner maybe at Miami this week. What's the advantage of that? What does that look like at the race shop?
So I think it's different for 2 people. For Kyle Larson, I don't think it's any advantage. I think Kyle Larson straps into whatever he's racing that day, IndyCar, Sprint Car, NASCAR, and drives it. And that is his strength. And that is the beauty. But for Cliff Daniels, who knew how to manage a team and organize a team, I think for him, he can start to divide and conquer. I don't think they're going to give up on Miami. I think momentum's real. I don't think they're going to give up on Martinsville. That place is so special to Hendrick Motorsports. But I do believe certain people in the organization, certain people under Cliff Daniels' watch, he'll be able to kind of assign them looking ahead, where I don't think that's possible if they're not already through.
And Jeff, we've seen it 3 of the last 6 years. The winner of the first race of the round of 8 has gone on to win the championship. I don't think it's a coincidence, do you?
It's definitely not a coincidence. I do think this is a bit of a challenge. I think it's an advantage, but also a challenge. I had a long conversation with Cliff Daniels at Darlington, and he talked to me about their process, their weekly process, how they get ready for the upcoming race, how they approach races, the time that he and Kyle spend together. And one thing that he kept saying to me and emphasizing that every race you treat the same. You treat every race as if it's the most important race in the world. So if that's the case, does he change what he's doing because he already knows he's locked in? I agree with Steve. I think there's a group in the shop, there's a group in the industry, in the company rather, that can focus on Homestead and also put more focus on the 24 team and William Byron and helping them get to Homestead. But for the 5 team in particular, how do you change your process? Do you change your process or do you keep it the same? Because if you have the mentality that every race is the same, then you wouldn't change it. You would treat every race the same. You would put the same effort into Homestead this week as you're going to put into Phoenix in 2 weeks. I will say this, no matter what happens at Homestead, they're going to get in the rental cars, going to the airport, and they're going to be happy because they're going to know that they're in Phoenix. And I think that's a massive advantage. It takes 2 weeks of pressure off. This is a long year. It is a very grueling year. It's a ton of pressure. It's a ton of intensity. You have 2 weeks that now, even if you go to Homestead and something bad happens, you're still laughing and having a good time going to the airport because you know the ultimate goal is winning the championship.
Well, let's hear from Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson on what they think about the next 2 weeks before Phoenix.
It's obviously it's nice to win and lock in and you can focus on Phoenix, but at the same point you can't really look too far ahead of yourself. There's still 2 other races before then that I put a lot of pressure on myself going to Homestead. I want to have a great run there, and I want to dominate, honestly. If tomorrow I started worrying about Phoenix and then had 2 bad runs at Homestead and Martinsville, I think, that would kill our momentum and confidence for Martinsville, or for Phoenix. So just put a lot of pressure on myself and our team to not get complacent and treat every race like it means something.
If we say, hey, we're just gonna cruise for the next 2 weeks, then you're not operating with the edge that I think you're going to need to win it in Phoenix. There's 2 more races to win, and so now that the way I see it is this: now that we're in the position that we're in, we get to play those races to win. If it's a late call, if it's flipping a stage, if a caution comes out, whatever it may be, versus having to play the race just for points. I think that's the position that it puts us in the next 2 weeks. But from the team exercise, I promise you, all those other guys are so good. They're going to be pushing so hard to try to win the next 2 weeks. I think we have to match that intensity so that we're going into Phoenix with the right level of intensity ourselves and, get there with strength.
Steve, how important are the next 2 weeks for the 5 team? I look at the Major League Baseball playoffs this year, and all the top seeds are getting beaten because they had a week off, right? You got to stay almost in that playoff mode. So how important are these next 2 weeks for this team?
I truly believe you play like you practice. You play like you prepare. And I agree. I think it's not the result. I think here's the difference. The 5 car can't afford to be slow. If they show up and they're slow all of a sudden, that would send shockwaves through the team. What they can't afford to do is not win. And that's really what I heard from both the driver and the crew chief, Jeff, is what I heard from the crew chief is, hey, if I got a coin flip, I could take the coin flip to win the race. And Kyle Larson said, if I got to find that extra 4 inches against the wall to run this guy down to win the race, I now have I've earned the ability to take those 4 inches, right? I wasn't given it. I earned it. I won at Las Vegas, so I can go that extra distance at Miami. That, to me, Jeff, is really the key. It's not about preparation. It's about the risk. They can move farther down the scale.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm not sure there's any racetrack that we race on that finding those last 3 or 4 inches is as important as going to Homestead. It is an unbelievable different amount of speed between being 6 inches from the wall and 2 inches from the wall. And it frees Kyle Larson up, and by the way, even if he wasn't, he'd be right against the wall. But it just allows him to be willing and able to go make a mistake, and with no consequence. And it's just a massive advantage to be able to race like that at Homestead.
Thanks for watching NASCAR America Motormouths, presented by Toyota.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.